Welcome back, everybody. It's time for another deep dive, and this one's going to be fun. This one's going to be interesting. You guys, threw us a real curveball this time.
A real challenge indeed.
Not only do you want the 10-point summary at the end, but you want us to do it with no word repetition. I don't even know if that's possible.
It'll be a fascinating linguistic experiment for sure.
For sure. All right, well, we're going to give it a try.
Let's dive in.
Okay, so the book we're tackling today is Becoming the 1% by Dennis Crosby, and it is a 7-day plan to kind of overhaul your productivity, taking a lot of the same habits that highly successful people use and kind of distilling it down to a program that should help you become a productivity powerhouse in just a week.
Yeah.
So pretty big promises right off the bat.
And the central argument is that time management really boils down to self-management. It's about making conscious choices of how we spend our time.
So it's not about necessarily fitting more into our schedules, but just really being intentional with the 24 hours we have.
Precisely. And a key part of that is recognizing the difference between what Crosby calls real work and pseudo work. And this goes back to the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule.
Oh, yeah, the idea that 80% of our results come from 20% of our effort. So how does that play into productivity?
Well, think about the activities that really move you towards your goals, the ones that create the most impact. That's your real work. Everything else. The busy work that might fill your day but doesn't contribute much to your progress, that's the pseudo work.
So the key is identifying and then prioritizing those high-impact actions. Does the book give us any guidance on how to do that?
It does. It introduces this idea of your area of impact, or your AOI, which is all about understanding which actions yield the greatest return in each area of your life.
The book also gets into some really fascinating brain science when talking about goal setting.
It does. Crosby highlights that our brains are actually wired to view our goals as extensions of ourselves, making their achievement critical to our sense of self. He talks about the dopamine-driven reward system, how our brain releases those feel-good chemicals as we make progress towards our aspirations.
There's a potential danger here, though, isn't there? The book cautions against setting goals that are rooted in insecurity rather than genuine desire.
Absolutely right. If our goals are coming from a place of needing external validation or fear of failure, they might not lead to true fulfillment.
It's about aligning our goals with our core values, understanding the why behind what we're pursuing. Is it driven by what truly matters to us, or are we chasing someone else's definition of success?
Authenticity is key. Let's dig into this concept of unlocking our potential through our area of impact, or AOI.
Okay, I'm excited to hear more about this. So AOI is understanding what activities have the biggest impact in different areas of our lives. Does the book give any specific examples?
It does. Crosby shares a story about realizing as a marketing director that he wasn't focusing on his AOI. He was spending too much time on low-yield tasks. By shifting his focus, he saw dramatic improvement in his results.
That's interesting. So for our listener then, how can they go about figuring out their own AOI? What are some practical steps they can take right now to pinpoint those high-leverage activities in their work and personal life?
That's a great question, and the book actually offers some practical exercises for doing just that. One approach is to list out all of your regular activities and rank them based on their impact on your goals. It really forces you to assess what's truly moving the needle and what's just keeping you busy.
I like that, cutting through the clutter and zeroing in on what really matters.
Right.
Okay, so let's say we've identified our AOI. How do we make sure we're consistently engaging in those high-impact activities?
Well, the book proposes a strategy called Slaying Your Dragon, which is all about tackling your most challenging task first thing in the morning to unlock incredible productivity for the entire day.
It's like facing your fears head-on, like those mythical heroes. Except, in this case, the reward is a surge of accomplishment and momentum.
Exactly. You conquer that one daunting task, that dragon, and it unleashes a cascade of motivation. The question is, how do we actually overcome procrastination, those tasks we just naturally tend to avoid?
Right, that's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
We all have those things looming over us, but actually getting started can feel impossible. What does the book recommend?
Crosby advocates for a technique he calls the ultimate hour. This is about carving out dedicated 60-minute blocks of focused work, minimizing distractions, and leveraging the principle of inertia.
Okay, tell me more about that. How does inertia play a role?
Well, once we start a task and get some momentum going, our brains tend to want to stay in motion. The ultimate hour is about harnessing that by minimizing interruptions and maintaining a steady flow of focused work.
Creating that distraction-free environment, silencing the phone, closing the email tabs, letting yourself get totally immersed in the task at hand.
Exactly. The book emphasizes that every distraction adds a significant cognitive burden. We have to restart our mental engines every time. It's like trying to drive with the parking brake on.
That's a good way to put it. It really highlights how these little distractions can have a huge impact on our progress. So Ultimate Hour is about creating that uninterrupted workspace, harnessing inertia, and maximizing output.
Precisely. And while the book recommends 60 minutes for these sessions, he encourages experimenting to see what works best for you. Find your personal rhythm, your attention span sweet spot. Maybe it's 30 minutes, maybe it's 90, maybe even more. It's about honoring your unique cognitive patterns.
And in all of this talk about productivity, we can't forget that we're not machines. We need breaks. We need rest.
Absolutely, which is why it's remarkable that in a book all about maximizing output, he dedicates an entire day to the concept of rest.
I love that it acknowledges that our energy, our creativity, our focus, it's a finite resource.
Yeah.
Rest isn't a luxury. It's an investment in our overall well-being and performance.
And he argues that rest isn't just about avoiding burnout. It's about actually enhancing the quality of our work. When we're well-rested, we're sharper, we're more creative, we're more resilient. We can tackle challenges with a fresh perspective.
Our culture tends to glorify busyness,
Yeah.
equating it with productivity. But this book really challenges that assumption. So what does Crosby recommend when it comes to actually recharging?
He emphasizes finding activities that truly rejuvenate you, whether that's spending time in nature, pursuing a hobby, disconnecting from technology. The key is to create a clear separation between work and rest. He suggests refraining from checking emails, answering work calls, doing anything mentally taxing during your downtime.
It's about giving ourselves permission to fully detach and replenish those energy reserves.
But
What about those of us who have trouble taking a full day off? Does he offer any alternatives?
he does. He suggests designating a specific block of time to address anything truly urgent that might come up, and then committing to enjoying the rest of the day without guilt.
So striking that balance between prioritizing rest and managing those essential tasks that might be weighing on our minds.
Exactly. And he also shares some pretty alarming statistics about American work habits, highlighting how pervasive overwork is and the detrimental effects of neglecting rest.
It's a good reminder that our obsession with being busy might actually be holding us back from being truly productive and ultimately from being happy.
Right. And that leads us to the final piece of this productivity puzzle: support systems. Crosby makes the point that we don't have to go it alone. Seeking guidance and support from others can be transformative.
We are social creatures. After all, we thrive on connection and collaboration. So what kind of support systems does he recommend?
He explores 3 main types: mentors, accountability partners, and mastermind groups. Each one has its own benefits and can play an important role in our growth.
Okay, so let's break those down a little bit further, starting with mentors. Why are they so valuable on this journey toward greater productivity?
Well, mentors bring a wealth of wisdom and experience. They've been there, they've done that. They can offer insights, help us anticipate obstacles, navigate challenges, stay focused on those long-term goals.
So like a guide helping us stay on track and avoid those potential pitfalls. And what about accountability partners? What role do they play?
Accountability partners provide that external push, to keep us moving forward. They offer encouragement, support, and maybe a gentle or not so gentle nudge when we start to veer off course. They create a sense of shared responsibility, which can be incredibly motivating.
It's like having someone in your corner cheering you on, keeping you accountable to those goals.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and finally, mastermind groups. How are they different from the other types of support?
Mastermind groups offer a really unique blend of collaboration and shared learning and mutual support. It's a group of like-minded individuals striving towards similar objectives, creating this synergistic environment where ideas can be shared, challenges can be overcome, and collective wisdom can be harnessed. It's like having your own personal board of advisors all invested in each other's success.
Okay, so going back to slaying your dragon, which we talked about earlier, the book suggests tackling that most challenging task first thing in the morning. But for a lot of people, that's easier said than done. Procrastination is real.
Oh, absolutely. Crosby acknowledges that, and he actually provides some specific tactics for overcoming that initial resistance.
Okay, I'm all ears. What are some of his suggestions?
One recommendation is to prepare thoroughly before you even begin the task. Gather your materials, declutter your workspace, remove any potential distractions. The idea is to eliminate any excuse for abandoning the task before it's completed.
Setting yourself up for success. Removing those little obstacles that could derail you.
Exactly. And another tip is to simply take that first step, no matter how small. Write the first sentence, make that initial phone call, sketch out the rough outline of your design.
It's like that saying, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Exactly. And once that first step is taken, inertia kicks in. Our brains crave closure. Every bit of progress we make towards completing a task triggers a little surge of dopamine, which reinforces that desire to keep going.
Creating a positive feedback loop accomplishment leads to more accomplishment.
Now let's talk a bit more about the ultimate hour, which is a technique that really resonated with me. It's such a simple concept, but so powerful.
Totally. It's all about creating those dedicated blocks of time, those sanctuaries of focus where distractions are banished and deep work can happen.
The book really stresses minimizing interruptions during these sessions. Turning off your phone, closing those email tabs, silencing those notifications. The goal is to create an environment where attention can thrive.
I think a lot of people underestimate the impact of distractions. It's like constantly shifting gears, never really getting into that flow state where we do our best work.
Every interruption comes with a cognitive cost. We have to disengage, reorient ourselves, expend mental energy to get back on track.
So Ultimate Hour is about creating that uninterrupted workspace, harnessing that power of inertia, and maximizing output.
Precisely. And while he recommends 60 minutes, he also encourages experimentation. Find what works best for you. Maybe your ultimate hour is actually 30 minutes or 90 minutes or even longer. Honor your natural rhythms.
In the midst of all this talk about productivity, though, we can't forget that we're human. We need breaks, we need to recharge.
Which is why it's so refreshing that in a book about maximizing output, he devotes an entire day to the concept of rest.
It's such an important point. Our energy, our creativity, our focus, they're all finite resources. Rest isn't a luxury. It's essential for our well-being and ultimately for our performance.
And he makes the case that rest isn't just about preventing burnout. It's about improving the quality of our work. When we're well-rested, we're sharper, we're more creative, we're more resilient. We can approach problems with renewed energy.
Our culture often glorifies busyness, equating it with productivity. But this book challenges that. So what does Crosby recommend when it comes to actually recharging?
He emphasizes finding activities that truly rejuvenate you. Whether that's spending time in nature, pursuing a hobby, or simply disconnecting from technology, the key is to create a clear separation between work and rest. He suggests no checking emails, no answering work calls, no mentally taxing activities during your downtime.
Giving ourselves permission to truly detach and replenish those energy reserves. For those of us who have trouble taking a full day off, does he offer any alternatives?
He does. He suggests designating a specific block of time to address anything truly urgent that might come up and then committing to enjoying the rest of the day guilt-free.
Balancing that need for rest with managing those essential tasks that might be weighing on our minds.
And he also presents some pretty startling statistics about American work habits, really highlighting how pervasive overwork is and the detrimental effects of neglecting rest.
It's a wake-up call. Reminding us that our obsession with being busy might actually be holding us back from being truly productive and ultimately from being happy.
Exactly. And that brings us to the final piece of this productivity framework, support systems. Crosby emphasizes that we don't have to go it alone. Seeking guidance and support from others can be a game changer.
We are social creatures by nature. We thrive on connection and collaboration. So what kind of support systems does he recommend?
He explores three main categories: mentors, accountability partners, and mastermind groups.
Let's dig into those a little bit. Starting with mentors, what is it about them that makes them so valuable in this pursuit of, greater productivity?
Well, mentors bring a wealth of knowledge and experience to the table. They've been there, done that. They can offer unique insights that can help us anticipate roadblocks, navigate challenges, stay focused on those long-term objectives.
So almost like a guide helping us, stay on course and avoid those potential pitfalls. What about accountability partners? What role do they play?
Accountability partners provide that external push to keep us moving forward. They offer encouragement, support, and maybe even a little nudge when we start to stray from our commitments. It's about creating that sense of shared responsibility, which can be incredibly motivating.
It's like having a personal cheerleader in your corner. Reminding you of your capabilities and holding you accountable to those aspirations. Right. And finally, mastermind groups. What sets those apart from the other types of support?
Mastermind groups offer a very special blend of collaboration and shared learning and mutual support. It's a group of individuals who are all striving towards similar goals, and it creates a very dynamic environment where ideas can be shared, challenges can be overcome, and collective wisdom can be harnessed. It's like having your own personal board of advisors, all invested in each other's success.
Crosby recommends that readers consider which type of support might be most beneficial at their current stage of development.
It's about recognizing that seeking guidance and support is not a sign of weakness. In fact, it's a sign of strength and self-awareness.
leveraging the collective wisdom and experience of those who have been there before to accelerate our growth and maximize our potential. And as we've seen, becoming the 1% provides a lot of practical tools and techniques for increasing productivity, but it also emphasizes aligning those goals with our values.
Making sure that our pursuit of greater output is in service of a higher purpose, enriches our lives in a meaningful way, and ultimately leads to greater fulfillment.
So for our listener, I want to leave you with a challenge. Think about those areas where you're feeling stuck right now, maybe in your work, maybe your personal life. Where are you craving a breakthrough? How can the principles and strategies we've discussed today help you overcome those obstacles? How can you apply these insights to unlock your full potential and achieve greater fulfillment?
We've given you a roadmap, a set of tools and strategies, but the real power comes from taking action and putting them into practice.
The ingredients are there, but it's up to you to create the masterpiece.
What a fantastic analogy. And remember, the journey toward mastery is ongoing. It's a constant process of refinement and improvement. Embrace new strategies, adapt your approach, and never stop striving.
Become the architect of your own success, the conductor of your own productivity symphony.
Beautifully said. So let's circle back to that challenge we set for ourselves at the beginning of this deep dive, crafting a 10-point summary without using the same word twice. It really forced us to flex our vocabulary muscles and find creative ways to express those core concepts.
A true mental workout.
And it highlighted the importance of precision and clarity in communication. If we can't articulate our ideas clearly, how can we expect others to understand them?
Absolutely. So are you ready for one final thought-provoking question for our listener?
Always.
Now that you have these tools, these insights, this understanding of productivity, what will you create? What impact will you make on the world? Dream big, aspire boldly, and let's get to work.
We'll leave you to ponder those possibilities. Until next time, keep exploring, keep striving, and never stop learning.